As California continues to adapt to the impacts of climate change, it's important to recognize and celebrate those actions we've already taken to build our resilience. The state of California is celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Integrated Regional Water Management Program, or IRWM. Established in 2002, the IRWM program has transformed how water resources are managed in the state, emphasizing collaboration, inclusivity, and regional watershed-based solutions. This approach has literally changed the landscape of California's water management statewide. Over the past 20 years, the Department of Water Resources, the lead state agency for IRWM, has worked with regional partners to identify water challenges and fund multi-benefit projects to respond to those issues. Working together, over $7 billion have been invested in California's water future so far, resulting in over 1,300 projects that have increased our climate resilience. These projects are already helping California deal with droughts, improve water supply reliability, increase water storage, reduce flood and fire risk, and improve water quality for millions of Californians and our natural environment. To truly understand the impact of the IRWM program, you need to see the projects themselves and hear from the regional partners who have realized tangible benefits through the program. As you'll see, the effectiveness of the projects is a direct result of the passion of the people behind them. Their commitment to working together has benefited all Californians more equitably than ever before, making the state more climate resilient and prepared for the challenges of the future.
The Kings Basin covers portions of Fresno, Kings, and Tulare counties. It's primarily ag, but we do have some urban areas like Fresno, Clovis, and then some smaller rural communities. One of the biggest challenges for us is groundwater overdraft, and then the long periods of drought.
We've definitely seen changes in our climate. We've seen the drier years get drier and more frequently. The wetter years tend to be more wet. We've been addressing that through building more recharge basins and banking facilities for the past 20 years. This just expanded it.
The funding from the IRWM program has been key in us being able to develop and implement some of our projects. For example, we've been able to complete projects such as several groundwater recharge basins to help with our groundwater overdraft issues.
This project was completed in 2018. And that was coming off a very wet 2017. And so we wanted to test it. And so we diverted water out here to see what the percolation rates were, and it percolates about what we thought. And so it worked exactly the way we had planned it. We put a lot of water out here that otherwise would have been lost to the area. We kept it in our area. We stored it underground, and helps the local growers out here, and it's worked exactly the way we wanted.
At our meetings, you have a room full of different people from different backgrounds, different agencies, so it's a great way for different agencies and community members to come together, talk about the challenges that they're facing in their community or their cities.
A lot more participation from disadvantaged communities, some of the smaller cities, and just other environmental justice groups and other entities that historically would never be at the table. So if not for the IRWM program, we wouldn't have had those types of conversations. So yeah, it's been a great program for us.
This region as a whole, as you know, it's going through a lot of challenges with drought and with sigma implications coming on, and sustainability goal. Each of the districts are working on efficiently managing their groundwater supplies and recharging groundwater when available, and watching the groundwater level elevation.
A lot of the concepts and ideas came out of the first 6 months to a year of listening to each other in a group setting. We'd meet once a month, go through the ideas, concepts, And what came out of that was a lot of regional improvements, like the project you're talking about today.
This is the Callaway Canal CVC inner tie project. Back in 2014, we got funded through DWR Prop 84 grant. We got a grant of about $6.3 million. And what this project does is it allows efficient delivery of water from the west side of the San Joaquin Valley into North Kern and Covolo Water District for recharge and for meeting irrigation demands.
So by modifying our infrastructure in Kern County and in between the districts, we are allowing them to bring the water in a non-irrigation period of the year, and to bring it in and be able to blend it in with local supplies better. To be able to do that though, you needed a large infrastructure improvements with some CFS to move that water supply. And that's what this canal and intertie helped do.
Scope of this project is to construct these two head gates from the CVC canal, which has a capacity of about 400 CFS, and it's about a mile of concrete line canal to the district's North Kern's Callaway Canal. Concrete lining is really important for the district because it reduces the losses. Before this project was conceptualized, we were looking at an earthen canal and the amount of water that the district would lose. We save about 6,000 acre-feet of water a year that we can bring into the district and we can percolate, and that increases the groundwater level elevation and reduces the pumping costs for our landowners.
Someone said to me that change occurs, at the retirements and funerals, and I like to think sometime sooner. I think a group like this made a choice to work together. You see the change over the decades, and they're really committed to working together and trying to make a difference in a collaborative manner.
It is very important that the silos are broken down. As a group, we are collaborating. We have started to collaborate and work as a team as to achieve sustainability, but there's a long way to go. It's a long road, and we'll find out there's going to be several challenges, but as a team, hopefully, we'll be able to achieve that.
Our region faces challenges related to water supply, water quality, and habitat degradation. These challenges are further exacerbated by climate change. We have an arid climate resulting in only 10 inches of rain per year along the coast, and our region encompasses 11 watersheds ranging from the coast to the mountains that include habitat for threatened and endangered species. Our IRWM program provides a forum to work together to address these challenges.
The San Diego IRWM program has been very successful. Our region has received over $100 million from voter-approved bonds for 78 high-priority projects in the region. By taking this holistic approach to water management, IRWM projects provide multiple benefits for the entire region.
This project included community-based water conservation and watershed protection, which included expanding the use of recycled water on campus by retrofitting cooling towers to use recycled water, installing collection systems in 4 research buildings to collect condensate from air handling units and reject water from reverse osmosis systems for reuse. We replaced 19,000 square feet of water-thirsty turf with drought-tolerant stormwater treatment landscaping to save water and to improve water quality in urban runoff. Our local IRWM group has been very supportive throughout the entire process.
IRWM's strength really lies in bringing people together with different perspectives and backgrounds to work together to develop these water management solutions. From water supply to water quality, habitat restoration, and flood management, IRWM improves climate resiliency and supports our community.
So the San Diego region is really trying to focus on diversifying our water supply portfolio and making the water supply in the region more reliable and reducing our reliance on import water.
Projects have multiple benefits for communities across the region. Examples include Oceanside's Pure Water program, and that will increase their local supply through advanced treatment of recycled water.
This project takes recycled water and treats it with advanced purification technology. We then inject the water into the groundwater aquifer where it's treated again naturally with that aquifer. We remove the water from the aquifer and treat it one final time through reverse osmosis and then distribute this high quality drinking water to the community. So with Pure Water Oceanside fully operational, it will increase Oceanside's local water supply to 30% and reduce our reliance on imported water from other parts of the state.
So IRWM has evolved from just a handful of stakeholders to a diverse and effective program with regional advisory committee that helps guide the decision making for the region.
This project aligns with both the IRWM and San Diego County goals of providing clean, reliable drinking water that's a local sourced water for the community here in Oceanside. IRWM has been a great partner with this project and with Pure Water Oceanside.
Collaboration fostered through the San Diego IRWM has led to lasting partnerships, innovative projects, and that helps support our long-term climate resiliency for the entire region.
Right now, I happen to think that Sonoma County and our area is sort of the epicenter of the impacts of climate change. The weather extremes for Sonoma County are really something else. We could have, say in 2019, I could be talking to you right now, we would have had the flood of record and Guerneville would be underwater. Cut forward to 2 years now, we are in the second year of probably the worst drought on history. Our extreme events are actually called atmospheric rivers. These are storms that come in low off the coasts and they literally stall out over the lower mountains and they drop a significant amount of rainfall. Sonoma Water and our colleagues in the Bay Area are working with Scripps Institute and Department of Water Resources to better understand what atmospheric rivers are going to mean for water management. So in our case, we're needing to put networks of radars up that are going to give us more precise information on what's coming our way. So the radar system that we're putting together is called AQPI. It stands for Advanced Quantitative Precipitation Information. The interesting thing about these next band radars are where they're aimed. They're actually aimed at about half the elevation up to capture where our atmospheric rivers are coming in. They're going to do a much better job of giving us precise measurements of the rainfall that's coming in off the coast, where it's going to land, where you have to get folks out of harm's way. Fortunately, the Department of Water Resources has invested in the Bay Area Integrated Water Management Program to the tune of about $20 million to get 6 or 7 of these radars up, plus one out in the Sonoma coast that's going to give us this really precise information on how to respond to extreme weather. I can only say that this type of investment is so smart. It's a way of taking the existing infrastructure that we've already invested in and putting it to higher and better use. By better managing our reservoirs, using existing technology and current radar technology, you'll be able to make decisions that'll save you not only hundreds of millions of dollars, but also human lives.
Here in Marin City, we have a life expectancy rate that's out of this world. You're talking about a 20-year gap, and it's been like that for years. Not only that, we have the highest chronic disease rate in all of the county, highest disability rate. These are things that's been known for years. The biggest challenge is the fact that we live in a disadvantaged, underserved, under-resourced community. We don't have a voice at the table because, number one, we're not invited to the table. And so that is a big problem. We're forced to have to go outside of this county to get folks to assist us. So Dept stands for Disadvantaged Communities and Tribal Involvement Program. So we started off doing a water assessment to find out from people, what do they think about their water? You know, what do they see? What does the water even look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? And it was some very concerning things that we saw. And it really warranted a need for us to do tap water quality testing It raised the knowledge around just the whole issue of water, because people know. They know that they have rashes when they take a shower. What is that? They know that their water smells bad. But a lot of folks didn't have a clue that, well, we're gonna have to start looking at maybe getting some filters as well. But the main thing is we have to look at getting some new pipes put in. So there are a number of things that this project has done. And I really appreciate Dept and DWR because, again, in Prop 1, because there's a source of funding that we could go after with Prop 1 to be able to get some new pipes in this community. We got I think it's about 43% of the pipes that will be replaced. But even at that, we need total replacement. We still have some asbestos pipes that need to be removed. So that was a success to be able to get that, because it's all about the public health of folks in Marin City. We don't want our kids having to grow up. We want them to look at longevity of life as well. But not just longevity of life, but longevity of a healthy life. That's what. So we have issues, let's find out what they are, let's get them fixed, remediated, and let's move on.
For the longest time, the saying is so true, whiskey is for drinking and water's for fighting. And it's no more true than here in LA County. And that's a problem for the community that we serve. IRWM has allowed us and actually pushed us to collaborate by incentivizing that collaboration. There's so many projects that came from the leveraging of the state dollars to improve the condition for LA County. One of the major projects that the state funded a portion of was our project to rehabilitate Morris Dam. And this is what our reinvestment in the reservoirs here in LA County. LA County maintains 14 major dams and the associated reservoirs. The purpose of those reservoirs is 1 for flood protection and 2 for water conservation. Morris Dam investment was a critical piece in that. It serves over 2 million people, protecting them from the devastating effects of floods. But it also captures almost 95% of the water that reaches the San Gabriel Valley in any rain season. With the investment that we made, we were able to improve and optimize that system by making investments in the control tower, the control system, as well as the reservoir capacity. It's a special place that continues to serve, but it's been made better by the investments by the state of California and Los Angeles County Flood Control District. I want to thank the state of California for its leadership, and specifically the Department of Water Resources when it comes to water resiliency. With the leadership there, incentivizing locals to collaborate through the Integrated Regional Water Management Plan, we've been able to address and provide greater outcomes for our communities. It's all about collaboration, and it has been a cornerstone of the state's effort to get the water agencies to work together to protect that natural resource here in the state of California that's so precious to so many and is all about life. Water is life. One of the great products of the Integrated Regional Water Management Program the state of California implemented under Prop 50 was to emphasize certain benefits, and specifically those benefits for communities of need, disadvantaged communities.
The unincorporated county community of East Los Angeles is a disadvantaged community. And so in our effort to develop this project, we wanted to maximize the benefits. And so we work very closely with the residents adjacent to the project site. This is a project that utilizes both engineering methods and nature-based solutions. These medians were primarily comprised of grass and overgrown trees. They were significantly impacted by the water restrictions from many years ago. And so rather than putting grass back, we utilized drought-tolerant landscaping to really take advantage of the native vegetation, reduce the reliance of irrigation. We also planted 300 trees. We utilized over 100 dry wells, infiltration wells. where we're able to divert stormwater and infiltrate them back into the groundwater. But the residents wouldn't even see any of that because above ground, what we've then utilized the space for is incorporate a whole bunch of bioswales, a whole bunch of recreation amenities. And so if you're walking through this neighborhood, you wouldn't even know that those engineered features were in existence. You're walking through this area as if it was a park.
Those outcomes include improved water quality, improved water supply, and benefits for the community. Community benefits that include greening of the space through green infrastructure, and also educating the public about the importance of water.
We have a great opportunity at this location where we have a middle school that is a few feet away from one of our large medians. And so it gives us an opportunity to be able to develop this project in conjunction with folks from the school, but then also try to leverage different opportunities to collaborate and maybe incorporate some of the school programs and some of the educational materials that were developed as part of our project. So during our ribbon cutting event here, we actually invited second graders from the nearby school. They had speakers during that event. They had talked about what environmental stewardship meant to them, what water quality and water supply issues meant to them. And so it was a great partnership between our agency and then also with the local school.
Working together has created this better outcome. It has created a focus on equity, as we talked about, and a focus on how best to save that water and optimize our money together so that we create a greater resource for the community.
Being in a room with other municipalities, other agencies that have very similar goals, that just ends up being a positive for everybody involved, especially the community.
Our region is the county boundary, within the county boundary of Ventura, and we have very unique watersheds. We do a lot of our work kind of at the watershed level, and our watersheds are all very different from each other.
I kind of call Ventura County a laboratory because we have the agriculture economy. We want to make sure that that's resilient and survives. And then we have a number of cities in this watershed and throughout the county. And a lot of those cities and all of agriculture and nature depends on natural river flows and groundwater.
Initially, the work that we did on climate resilience was to take a hard look at what the future holds for climate change.
And we, as the climate change program, the science experts, were able to really hone in on what they should focus on and what the biggest concerns for the future that we saw in climate projections were.
The scientists tell us that while the amount of precipitation that we get here in this watershed will probably remain about the same as far as they can tell, that it most likely is going to come in major pulses.
And it really created this excellent product that was going to help them be prepared and be able to adapt and mitigate the impacts of climate change.
An example project that I think has emerged from that is our floodplain protection project on the Santa Clara River, where the Nature Conservancy has purchased easements from property owners to allow for the river to take a natural course during high flood flows.
And the concept is to keep the river hydrologically connected to its floodplain. It provides flood protection for downstream cities and property owners. It does the things we care about by allowing the natural processes to maintain the habitats that we care about in the river in particular. It even, when the river overtops and has the ag land to flood out over, it recharges the groundwater to a certain extent, so it's in a way a floodmore project too.
I think that Ventura IRWM was a perfect example of what IRWM could accomplish. The point of IRWM is managing water with all the necessary players within a region, making decisions that are good for everybody.
And so it gave us an opportunity to sit down together and find the multiple benefits that are so important to IRWM, to integrate better across the entities, and develop, frankly, it's a lot about the relationships and the people, working together, building trust.
That to me is the most important thing about IRWM, is that we address our watershed problems as a group instead of trying to do it individually.
Here in southeast Ventura County, we are highly dependent on imported water sources, and we are a state water project dependent area. As we know, it's been a very severe drought, the third consecutive year of below average snowpack from that system. The groundwater supplies are very brackish. As the water use is continually reused downstream, saltier supplies start to build up, the salt loading throughout the watershed.
A really good example in our region of a project that has benefited most of the county is a water quality enhancement project, and that's our salinity management pipeline. It is a pipeline system that's been put in place with an ocean outfall to connect desalters from the groundwater basin to remove salts and then take the salts out to sea.
So a groundwater desalter is a wastewater treatment facility that takes up brackish groundwater, treats it, takes the salts out, and has that potable supply for use for domestic uses. Now, after that treatment process, a brine byproduct comes out of that and is conveyed through this facility out to the ocean.
That pipeline is a multi-benefit project because not only is it removing salts and taking them out to the ocean, but also it can run the other way and deliver water to growers from one of our advanced wastewater treatment plants.
So not only building more water resilient supplies by allowing the treatment of that brackish groundwater, we're also reducing the salt load and improving the environment, helping not only water agencies, but our local environment as well.
Our region, there were different groups that would meet, people interested in flood protection and management, folks interested in groundwater, folks interested in habitat restoration. And so they weren't always at the same table or in the same room.
So integrated regional water management is very important to Cayugas. We work together with not only water agencies, but also environmental community, different nonprofit and NGO groups out here. And we have to say that working with the Watersheds Coalition of Ventura County has been a benefit for us here regionally, and has helped really support this program that you see with the salinity management pipeline.
It's been a catalyst, for that collaboration. So I would say things are much more collaborative than they used to be, and that we have achieved a lot of great things. The greatest thing is just that we have relationships that we can fall back on to help us address our challenges.
Some of the challenges that our region faces is that we have a huge region. We go from Tecopa out in the southeast part of Inyo County all the way up to Colville in the north. It makes it difficult to do outreach because we're constantly having to travel back and forth. And it makes integration a little difficult. It's difficult to integrate the interests of a real desert area with interests of more forested areas. And the communities likewise are very different. Because of the types of communities that we have in the Inyo-Mono region, we've been reaching out to disadvantaged communities and tribes as a rule from the start. If we didn't include disadvantaged communities and tribes, we honestly really wouldn't have anybody sitting at the table. The Inyo-Mono region is really full of DACs, and we have about 7 very active tribes, 6 of which are federally recognized. So we have small community water systems and tribes and federal agencies and local agencies and state government agencies. And so we have never limited, especially DACs and tribes, from being at the table and being part of our decision-making process. We identified early on with some communities in the Tecopa and Shoshone area that they didn't have potable water to drink. The residents of Tecopa were traveling about 30 miles each way to Pahrump, Nevada to get their potable water because the water underground in the Tecopa region has naturally occurring arsenic. There's no anthropogenic contamination, it's just naturally occurring. So we started working with the Amargosa Conservancy and Inyo County to do a feasibility study funded by Prop 84 through the IRWM program to determine what the best options would be in Tecopa for figuring out how to get them potable water. That feasibility study identified to build a centralized treatment kiosk. And that way everybody in Tecopa could come to the centralized kiosk to get their potable drinking water. That kiosk was built and has been in operation for about 5 years now. It's a pretty basic benefit, but the idea that they had to travel 60 miles round trip previously to get water, it makes a huge difference. And then the Colville project, similar to Tecopa, they had been drinking bottled water at the Colville school for more than a decade because the groundwater there has naturally occurring uranium. And they built the ion exchange project, and you know, the really cool thing is now school kids can go to the water fountain and drink straight out of the fountain. The water project also included the installation of 3 tanks right next to the ion exchange part of the treatment plant. And those tanks certainly provide some backup supply for the school in case the well were to go down for any amount of time. But it also provides fire water supply to the town of Colville. So one of the tanks is untreated water. So if there were a need for fire water supply, they could draw on all 3 of those tanks, including some untreated water for the community. So in the Inyo-Mono region, we've been doing the IRWM program for about 14 years. And the communities in our regional water management group have come to see the IRWM program as the place to talk about water resources in the Inyo-Mono region and as an incredible source of information. And that's what I get to do. That's what I get paid to do. And I really enjoy doing that. So it's great that we've been able to be that resource in the Inyo-Mono region.
Our region, the north coast of California, right here in Sonoma County, but all the way up to the Oregon border, faces unique challenges. But let's be real, climate change is the biggest one. It's right in our face.
And so the impacts from climate change have meant for our region more prolonged drought, drier conditions, as well as, as we're experiencing kind of all over the western U.S. is catastrophic wildfires and their intensity on the inland. I've been working for the tribe for 20 years as a fisheries biologist here in the Lower Klamath. The Yurok tribe has probably the largest tribal fisheries program in California, and their whole culture and lifeways are dependent on the health of the river and the health of the salmon.
Whether they own the land or not, it's still their historical use area, and so being allowed or being provided an opportunity to continue to provide insight and management in those areas has been a goal of mine, but it is a goal of most of the tribes in the area.
The Yurok Fisheries Program, we're focused on what's called process-based restoration. We're trying to mimic natural features and functions that once supported robust populations of fish and other wildlife.
So the fact that these program dollars come into a way that honors the land and not just the divisions that we've created since civilization started here, it moves us back into this true collaborative place.
Taking the advantage of this opportunity to engage and participate in this program and having that ability to drive it and being able to say we would like it to go this way or that way has been a real draw for the tribes.
We really try to bring in as many partners as possible, which I think really reflects this program's objectives. We really focus on nature-based solutions and, multi-benefits, not only in species benefits, but for the local community. We're a river-dependent community, and so the health of our watersheds really are, closely tied to the health of the people as well.
I'm involved with a lot of other state actions around, resources that are important to us, and it's very important for tribes to step up and stand up to work with the state.
There is no solution on one tributary if you don't deal with the river. There is no solution if you just do mainstream of the river and you don't get into the tributaries. We know that watershed-based solutions are the only way forward because these systems operate in holistic manners. So if you're going to take a system, you better give it a systems approach, and that starts at the watershed.
Right now we are in Hunter Creek, which is a tributary to the Lower Klamath. This particular project, we did stream and floodplain restoration in a mile of Hunter Creek, as well as in a mile of Turwer Creek, which is an adjacent watershed just upriver from us. Project focused on building in-stream habitat, putting in large wood jams and other features, increasing side channel habitats and other floodplain features to benefit fish and wildlife, as well as sort of those ecological processes that are necessary for fish to thrive. So we work with the North Coast Resource Partnership, and it's been great. I really appreciate the sort of integrated expertise that it brings into developing projects, reviewing projects, prioritizing them for funding, and then a great bunch of people to work through as you're going through the project.
I'd challenge anybody to show a better partnership between tribe and county and local government than we have right now. And that's the key is that the IRWM program has allowed us to not just come together as a region, but to rise as a region. The results are there across the landscape, and I would invite anybody to come up and see them firsthand.
The IRWM program and the funding that allowed us to come together and prioritize projects to make us more resilient are what allow us 20 years later to be refining and improving upon our delivery of services and ultimately effectively reaching disadvantaged communities that probably would have no other way of securing funding for projects that need to get done.
In the Navarro watershed and a lot of the small watersheds across the North Coast, there are rural disadvantaged communities that they have, most everybody has a well, and so it's all a bunch of sort of non-centralized water supply. So working on an individual parcel by parcel basis is how we have to work. So it's many projects across the landscape that will build resiliency for the community.
This has had a truly significant, important investment strategy that's made our region more resilient and capable of withstanding some of the most extreme weather events we've seen in recent memory.
We've been since 2012 experiencing this more extreme drought years, and so we went through like 2012 to 2018, and then 2020 and 2021 are historic drought years, back to nothing we've seen since 1976-77 drought. So there's more increased drought and lower stream flows, and there's no dams in the Navarro watershed, which is where we are. And so water storage is an issue for getting through the low flow and the long dry season.
One of the most unique features from the IRWM program is the technical assistance grants that were made possible. These are small utilities and areas that are trying to provide resource protection and projects that don't have staff, that don't have a grant writer, that don't have somebody that can actually collaborate and pull together projects.
The project today, where we are, is in Philo, and it's at Blue Meadow Farm. It's a small 1-acre farm, and she grows beautiful peppers, basil, onions, all your, tomatoes, amazing tomatoes that people stop at her market stand or farm stand. And she also sells to local restaurants and stores. And this was the largest project that the Mendocino County Resource Conservation District had worked on to date. And it's a 29,000 gallon tank, and it captures rain from the shop roof. And meanwhile, we learned more over time about Mill Creek is a coho endangered species stream. And so the second tank went in, and that's a 69,000 gallon off-stream storage tank. So they pump in the wintertime and use that water for the low flow season when the fish and the creek needs the water the most. These tanks gave them the resiliency to be able to continue to farm through the season, where if they, we had conditions like we did in 2021, and these systems weren't online, they would have missed out on almost a whole farming season. This is a proof of concept right here for people to be able to see what water security for farms and homes can bring to them and extending their season and for drought resiliency. And it also, with our signage that was on the road, you can learn more that there's coho salmon. A lot of people might not even know that there's coho salmon in their stream, and that a whole watershed is connected from the ridge down to the river, that we're all living, when we live in one watershed, we're all connected via just living in that watershed. So the water resources, the forest resources, all of that connects us together. And it's projects like this that are a great demonstration to show what we can do when we work together.
I think that the most important aspect of the IRWM program and its legacy is what it's set in motion, how we are working together and will continue to work together. We also are going to need to find that next 20 years worth of support, and that partnership with the state of California. Department of Water Resources should be applauded for coming up with this strategy, and now our challenge is to make sure that we're leveraging those dollars and building upon those partnerships. I would say here's to the next 20.